Like the purple voyage of the previous star, the orange one puts you on a linear train track. It starts in Mustard Calf, where we have to save an ass in a hole. This stage features sinking sand and pokies. They can't be jumped on, well, unless you have iron boots, so it would be a good idea to buy hammers before you come here. It's moments like this which can make the cart system really annoying. As you head down, the calf owner you need to rescue is sitting back in a deck chair. Well, he has the sand, he just doesn't have the sun or the sea. Soon after that, you get thrown in jail. You use the sinking sand to escape, falling down and then working your way back up again. I'm sure this reminds me of some Pokemon dungeon or something. Now, he could fit through the bars, but sometimes you just have to make life more interesting. The owner is at the bottom cell, and no, you can't just leave him there. When returned to the calf, he gives you what you need to proceed. After the calf, we see the main focus of this part, the train. I fixed the bridge in Kawano Temple. You see, there's been a recurring side plot where you meet the various Toad rescue squads. In a brilliant twist of irony, they often need rescuing themselves. You have to find all members of a certain squad, and then they'll help you at a certain point. I didn't mention it before because it seemed like a non-issue. I barely tried looking for them. Just keep your eyes open and you shouldn't really miss them. In this case, they form a train tracks to help the train across. And I must say, even the Cirque du Lousai would be impressed with their origami acrobatics. This is actually a really good way of limiting the areas the player can visit. With the train up and running, it's onto the Toad train works. In this area, it's been demolished, and the task here is to put it back together. This involves going around the area and putting it back piece by piece. There's this one point where you head into the cart and these disgruntled passengers take out their anger on you. What a bunch of smeg encrusted ingrates. And to annoy me further, you don't even get the chance to finally beat up a toad. It just ends. Well, thanks for that. In this area, we meet the coal guys. The same old Shy Guys, except they're equipped with giant rocks now. Hammer's bypassed this, but at this point I was running low. Otherwise you would have to jump on top of them and slowly wear down these giant rocks of theirs. We also meet the Rocky Wrench, who I find irritating because it's harder to avoid random battles with these guys. Thankfully they don't appear too much in this game. With the train completed, it's on to the next stop. Tangerino Grill. This is a small area, but it's a test of your battle skills. When entering the kitchen in the back, and once you clear out all the Shy Guys, we are treated to a series of minigames in order to cook a pizza. I said this was a test because these require you to use your timing abilities. First, you have to flatten the dough with precise hammer attacks. Then, you have to chop the onions with 20 perfect jumps, and then fry the toppings. The last one is just a reimagined game of spinning plates. Thankfully, the last one is indeed the easiest. Being Italian, Mario might have good taste in pizza. I just hope he changed his gloves after his last plumbing job. I also feel the need to make a mushroom joke here, but I think they've all been done. I think there's no mushroom jokes left ever. With that done, you bake it. This involves a game of timing. You have to hold the pizza in the oven for just enough time. It took me quite a few tries to get the previous minigames right, so I just cheated and used my phone to make sure I didn't mess this one up. I just didn't want to do it all over again, honestly. With the pizza done, there's still one prickly customer left to please. This is one of the most unique boss fights I've seen in a while. The boss itself is a steak, but you're not supposed to beat it, but prepare it for dinner. And it's also based off an actual steak, according to the Easter egg the developers left in the game here. This is quite a bit more complex than you would think. First, you need to tenderize the meat with hammer attacks, but not too much. You then need to use 3 thin cards in the right order: the salt and pepper, the barbecue, and finally the lemon. Get it right and the customer should be happy.
Overcooked on the bottom, crispy as fuck, and it looks like Gandhi's flip-flop.
This is a great example of this game's strength. Each stage has you doing something unique and different. It throws a lot of variety at you. We've had pirate adventures, haunted hotels, small enemies, big enemies, game shows, and there's still more to go. The next area is the last stop of the journey, Sunset Express. The train is halted again by a giant swamp. A megaphone will wake you up, although you get train wrecked here. I can never seem to dodge any of these sequences on my first attempt. The second part of the stage takes place on a moving train, a well-used but still entertaining trope. I made my way through the train, picking up the rescue squad members. As I go, the squads keep getting bigger and bigger, but this red group will be the last, and frankly there'll be enough to fill a stadium. On the train we meet the Sombrero Guy, a new type of shy guy that buffs enemies with songs. And I have to give this series some credit. You don't see mariachi bards very often. A moment which I think a lot of people remember from this section is the talk with this shy guy. You see, he may be one of the goons, but he's not really bad deep down. He wants to leave Bowser's army really, but he doesn't know what else he can do with his life. He's sort of trapped. It really is a memorable scene. The downside is that it will remind you that this series once had partner characters made up of Mario's rogue gallery. The boss of the train is Larry. He lies at the front of the engine. He benefits from healing smoke that comes up from a chimney. Other than that, he uses the same tactics as his peers. There are enemies in the way, but this time there is a significant increase in strength. In a rare occurrence, a Toad actually helps you in this boss fight by going for the engine and thus stopping him healing. This does raise the difficulty because he needs you to cover him. As he makes his way there, you can't allow him to get hit by an enemy. It's now when I had to use my more powerful cards to sweep away the goons in one turn. When the moment arrives, use the cork card to clog its chuffer and stop him from healing. Like the other fights, he's not threatening once his buff is taken away. With Larry down, the train goes on to its final destination. The sun sets over the horizon and the orange paint star is collected. With 5 down, there is just one more to go. The path to the green star first takes you to Red Pepper Volcano, which you might associate with the red star, but it was a wise choice not to have the player dodging fire and lava in the first chapter. This area features a new type of enemy, the lava bubbles. They are self-explanatory, enemies made of lava. The tricky thing about these fellows is that they're immune to most attacks, the ice flower being the most effective against them. The downside being that they are scarce to come by and expensive to actually buy. The game does throw some at you while you're in this volcano, so I would recommend you avoid the bubbles and save the ice flowers for the fights you can't avoid. The first part is guided by a fire-breathing Dracagon. A quick pan to the head and he becomes yours to control. To complete this area you'll need a series of items, such as a fishing rod and a magma burger. Both you can get from Fort Cobalt. With the burger acting as a lure, we can now take advantage of the brain damaged. He'll act as our ride for this area. Still preferable to Uber drivers, frankly. And yes, I'm aware he's from Captain Toad's Treasure Trail, or whatever it's called. It really is fun to ride him. Not only to avoid battles, but you can also use him to smash the platforms these enemies are standing on. The area does feature a mini-boss, a big lava bubble. I didn't find him difficult, but it did help that I had a few ice flowers in my deck. It's also not many boss fights that come with a translator, but it's good to know I'll be able to understand its pleas for mercy. With the bubble popped, the mini-star is found in the hot spring. The Toad Squaddies are also here, although I wouldn't be surprised to see a button mushroom in a bathhouse. The Shy Guys are also here, and they seem to bathe with their clothes on, but I guess they're called Shy Guys for a reason. We also see them getting an eyeful of a fellow bather, who turns out to be a Boo. I'm not sure what they thought they were looking at. Maybe they have a volleyball fetish? With that area done, we're out of the fire and into the woods. I return to Sacred Forest to progress. It's a simple case of using a magnifying glass to make a pipe big enough to fit through. We face off against a Magic Koopa who will use his usual magic tricks to hinder you. That was easy enough to deal with, but the real tricky part is when he shrinks you. You see, being small is one thing, but I found it difficult to time my jumps in this condition. But with quite a few missed hits, I did manage to get a win. His magic isn't really all that. I bet he was a Hufflepuff. The next level is the Green Energy Plant. A seemingly simple area, but it hides a pixelated dungeon inside. Once power is restored to the plant, you'll have to live the wet dream of every kid in the 80s and jump into the screen itself for a side-scrolling mission. It's a callback to the retro days, but also a callback to the previous Paper Mario game. Like the Wii edition of this series, you switch between a 2D and 3D perspective, and thus making a mockery of Edwin A. Abbott's Flatland. Each point of view provides a different path to move. To get the Mini-Star, you will actually have to use this ability to dodge goalposts and thus find secret paths hidden behind them. And while I'm here, I'll just mention this cloud right here. Its right eye is the one spot that is blank in this stage, just so you don't go mad looking for it. The next stage up is Moss Rock Theatre. It's here where we get a glimpse of the theme used for the 6th Koopaling. When traversing the woods, it becomes clear that the minions have some secret talents hidden on their resume, because it turns out they are actually talented circus performers. It's mostly a welcome change of pace, with the exception of the jugglers near the end of the stage. You see, they hide out on a tightrope in the background and throw hammers at you. I've never liked these assholes in any game. I mean, what kind of guy uses a hammer anyway? Did they pick up their arsenal in a hardware store?
The hammer is my penis.
The final star is at Emerald Circus. The show can't start, however, until it's been sold out. But if you've been looking out for the red rescue squaddies, then there should be a full audience waiting outside. Lemmy pulls off a few magic tricks, but before you meet the man himself, you'll have to go through a gauntlet of circus-themed battles. First up is a bunch of shy guys on a unicycle. Hammers won't be so effective here, so you'll have to jump on them. They are also a group, so when you fight them, treat them the same way you would a stacked enemy, and use items that have multiple hits. The next fight is with a trainer and 2 wild dino rhinos. Without the trainer, the dinos become stronger and angrier, so it's best to avoid hitting him if you can, but you can't really select what enemies you attack in this game. I guess maybe you could intentionally fail your first attack, but I didn't really figure that out and I struggled through anyway. The third fight is against a stack of Buzzy Beetles. It's best to use the iron jump to take out the top guy, and power blocks for the beetles below. I did end up cutting this one short with a Thing card. The fourth fight is against a stack of trampoline guys. You have to take out the trampoline first in order to be able to attack them. These fights were great, forcing you to strategize and think about what attacks to use and when to use them. Going backstage, I did like the touch of a clown car hidden in the background, a very fitting place for it in fact. With those guys out of the way, it's a simple jump to the fight with Lemmy. He starts off with juggling bros in front of him, more difficult than the regular enemies, but not impossible. Lemmy shows up doing his BB-8 impersonation, but it only gets worrying when he brings out the spiked ball. This threat requires 2 Thing cards to deal with, a disco ball to distract you, and an ice pick to pop the ball. And to my shame, I didn't realise you had to use them in one turn, which resulted in my first failure. Once the ball is popped, he's as good as done. With the green paint star recovered, the hex set is complete. When it returns to the town, we are given the final piece in the story, which really didn't need to be dished out in 6 installments. This isn't exactly War and Peace. The story is simple. Bowser made a mess in the jacuzzi which formed into some ungodly evil. He mixed all the colours together, and I think we all knew a kid like that in school. He became an Al Johnson impersonator. It does show the threat, however. With the 6 big stars collected, it forms a rainbow road. And yes, they do make a joke about that. Luigi, being the greatest Mario character ever, provides us with a ride. It's either going to lead to Bowser's Castle or San Francisco. Once in the castle, it was just a few hallways until I encountered Roy, the 7th and final Koopaling. His gimmick is that he uses a bazooka to blast you with paint, each colour having a different effect. When you wear him down enough, he drops that and just covers the whole room in black paint, and you can't attack Roy at this point, so you'll have to use the washing machine to clean up the area. Fortunately, it was one of those items I never wanted to waste, so I still had it on me. A spin cycle later and the last sibling is easy enough to take down. Deeper into the castle, we see Bowser's plan about to take action. He has a whole series of bullet bills filled with black paint. They are set to cover the island in the same way YouTube is covered with clickbait videos. This plan is easily foiled by detonating the bombs, and then outrunning the ensuing tidal wave. And after that section, it's just a short walk to the final boss. Rather anticlimactic in a way. For the final dungeon, this was very short. I was expecting a gauntlet, a series of challenges, a return of previous obstacles and characters, but no, it was rather short. But I really don't have a problem with this. I would say this was underwhelming, but I've never really been a fan of endurance dungeons. It's that sort of thing that keeps me from getting into the Final Fantasy series. Not to mention the card-based attack system would make a long dungeon a pain, really. There's a fun prelude before the battle begins. Bowser makes a great pun about Peach being framed. The first phase of the fight is Bowser covered in black paint. He'll spawn some black lava bubbles, which act as a nuisance. To give you a vital hint here, Bowser is resistant to jumps. It took me 2 attempts to beat him, and the second time round was much easier because I made a point of buying a deck of nearly all hammer cards. As you attack him, the paint is worn off little by little, and Bowser becomes conscious for a brief second. I haven't gone too deep into this, but it's somewhat of a missed opportunity. The fact that Bowser is possessed doesn't really affect the wider story. The Koopalings and his minions don't seem to mind and they do their jobs. The princess still gets kidnapped and our heroes just go against him as usual. You could have Bowser be the same as he usually is, and it would only affect a few small things. The second phase is where it gets intense. The black paint reclaims Bowser and he grows to an enormous size. He has a few extra attacks, but the tactic remains the same, just beat the paint off him. At a certain point, Huey will step in. You see, being a bucket, he stands in to absorb the paint as Bowser attacks you. He absorbs it like a divorcee taking in alcohol. And this provides an extra challenge, because you have to master guarding at this point. After a few successful rounds, you'll wear him down enough and he'll go in for the final blow. And you have to time this last guard just right. And if you do, he's done. Apart from one final attack. The castle then starts to crumble and the heroes make their escape with the princess in tow. Huey has to stay behind, stating that he has to deal with the danger of the falling castle. And with one tremendous act of selflessness, he takes in the whole damn thing. And now that he's full of bile, he starts writing for a gossip magazine. No, really he flies off somewhere to deposit it somewhere far away. Hopefully not the Gulf of Mexico. The celebrations begin, and if you sit through the traditional parading credits, the game will then remind you of all the things you didn't do. like play rock, paper, scissors, or painting all the white spots. Essentially all the stuff you don't give a damn about. And that's it, the whole story. Paper Mario Color Splash has issues. I didn't like the card system. A lot of the elements and characters seemed blander than expected. I've been over nearly everything I didn't care for. However, I did enjoy myself. The variety of elements and the writing were a major plus, so I would recommend it. If you've watched these videos, then you will know what you're in for. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll make more of these in the future, and hopefully they'll be better quality.